Welcome to Cooking with Rescued Food.
Now, before we begin the program at Queen Elizabeth Park Community and Culture Center, it's important to acknowledge the land that we're on, Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation.
Food insecurity is a real reality for families right here in Oakville. And because of that, we want to teach you how to use rescued food to make great, healthy options for you and your family.
Now, all the meals that we're going to make today are donated to us as rescued food by Food for Life, our amazing partners for this program. It's important for us to have this program and start a conversation so that people can break the stigma of rescued food and feel a sense of community for everybody in Oakville. So let's go.
Hi, I'm Graham with Food for Life. I'm the executive director of an amazing organization that has been serving the community for 25 years. Food for Life has been rescuing food and impacting lives all the way across Halton and Hamilton, and we're not planning on stopping anytime soon. We go out to grocery stores, retailers, wholesalers, producers, and we rescue amazing quality food that you're going to see in these cooking demonstrations, and we get it back out into the community to help people who are struggling with hunger. People who are struggling with hunger look no different than you and me. We don't know why people turn to a food program for help, but we do care that they have access to good, healthy, amazing food. And that good, healthy, amazing food is readily available and is typically thrown out as part of our natural waste process of the supply chain. And we rescue this good, healthy, perishable food and then get it back out into a community. And with the help of chefs like you're going to see through this program, show you how to turn it into amazing, healthy, good food for you and your family and your loved ones. So if you need to turn for assistance, you need a hand, whether it's for a reason or a season, maybe it's a job loss, maybe you're just looking to stretch the budget a little bit more, or maybe you're just looking to learn how to eat healthier and put down the Oreos and pick up a squash, give us a call or visit our website. And if during this time of COVID-19, if you're experiencing any challenges with mobility, ODSP, or any other health challenges that may limit you accessing regular programs in community, please just dial 311 and Halton Region will bring you into the system, and we'll reach out and deliver directly to your home. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. And remember, learn more, volunteer, and donate anytime at foodforlife.ca.
I'm so pleased to be working with Food for Life today. Graham's here to tell us a little bit about our ingredients today.
Hi, Laura. Thanks for having me in the kitchen.
It's so glad you're here.
Yeah, well, it's not every day I get to sit with a wonderful chef and talk about rescued food and the awesomeness that's going to be coming off the stovetop soon.
Perfect.
Yeah. So we have, I don't know the full recipe, but I know it involves squash, which is awesome. And we also have some kale, some onions, and a bunch of other items, potatoes, all the essentials that go into it. And all this has been rescued from local farmers, grocery stores, and producers. So this was actually all bound for the garbage.
Oh my goodness.
And yeah, I know. And we rescue about 4 million pounds of this every year. Yeah, I know. It's a lot. And that's a lot of food that goes to waste. And that's why we say that really no one should go hungry and everyone should have access to healthy food. But not everyone knows how to turn this into what you're going to show us today, which is the awesome part of bringing all this rescued food together.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
The main focus will be on squash. So the squash we're going to be working with today is going to be a butternut squash. So it looks like this. It's got a nice firm orangey flesh. This one's really great for roasting, for soups. It's a very versatile vegetable. So we are going to get started on a butternut squash soup today. Okay, so there's a couple ways to do this. So you want to cut off the top and the bottom so you have a nice stable surface. You can peel them and then cut, or you can slice in half and roast them in the oven. Today I'll just show you, we're going to cut up. So I'm going to use my knife and I'm just going to cut off the bulb part on the bottom. Now we've got a couple different peelers here. So you've got like a Swiss peeler and just like a regular peeler.
So would you say they're both a little bit appealing?
Yes.
Aha! I love kitchen humor. It just makes it go so much faster.
So I'm going to do it like this because I'm going to show you, we're going to cut some nice even diced squash. So just use your knife as a guide with the piece before, because it will kind of stick on there. Okay, so you've got some nice even pieces. And then again, when you're holding your food, you want to have your thumb in the back, and then you're going to cut nice even cubes. Okay, a nice sawing back and forth motion. And again, if you have your fingers up against the blade of the knife like this, you're never going to cut your finger.
So Laura,
Yes.
I mean, sometimes in my kitchen when I'm cooking, I'll be cutting up one thing, like a squash, and may make a couple of things. And I know you have a couple of recipes here that all tie into the same thing. So there's one act of kindness of going through the squash. You're going to make a couple of things today.
Yeah.
But I don't know what the other two are. I know the
Okay.
soup.
So we're gonna do a butternut squash soup. I'm just gonna seed the bottom part here.
Yeah.
Making it look really.
And they're edible too, right? Like people can roast those.
These are edible, and they're really good if you wanted to put them with a little bit of cayenne pepper, and you can roast them in the oven. They can also be a garnish for your soup.
Ooh, very nice. I like that. So again, using every portion of the plant.
Absolutely. So what we did a dice here, and we're going to put some olive oil in here with some salt and pepper, and we're going to roast this, and we're going to actually use it for a salad.
Oh wow,
Okay.
a butternut squash salad.
Yep.
Love
and
it.
we're going to pair it with some nice apple and red onion.
Oh,
Yum yum.
I know.
And then we're going to use some of your delicious kale.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we are going to use this as puree, and we're going to make a butternut squash brownie.
No, get out of town.
Yeah, sneaky, sneaky.
Like
Don't
I've
tell
heard
the
of beet
kids.
brownies before, but a butternut squash brownie.
Yeah, and we're going to use it in place of a fat, so we're actually
Love
making it
it.
a little bit more heart healthy.
Love it.
And then we all know that squash is very high in vitamins A, C, and E,
Mm-hmm.
and soluble fiber. Another way that you can actually roast squash, when you have a whole squash like so, you can actually just cut it in half, and then you're going to use your spoon just to take out the seeds, and then you pop it right in the oven at about 400 for about 25 minutes.
That's awesome.
Okay.
That's how my daughter likes to do it. We just cut it in half, boom, boom.
It's perfect,
Yep.
easy.
Yeah, just watch it when it comes out of the oven because it's a little bit hot.
It's hot.
Yeah.
And we've just got a pot here with some water, and we're going to put maybe a little handful here. We're just going to boil this.
Love it.
Not a lot. We're going to bring that to a boil, and then we're going to puree it with our immersion blender. And I'm just going to move this aside for right now because we're going to cut some onion. We're going to cook out our onion first, and then we are going to add some garlic, and then we'll add our squash and our broth.
Perfect.
Okay.
Sounds good.
So we're just going to warm up our oil a little bit. All right.
All right. Now we have Bud the Spud from the Bite Red Bud.
How
We
do you
got some
feel?
potatoes.
How do you feel about peeling potatoes?
Oh, I'm great. I am very appealing.
All
My
right.
wife doesn't agree, but I'm very appealing, I think.
Perfect.
All right.
All right. So while you're doing that, I am going to work on an onion. So I'm just going to peel. I'm going to quickly cut off both ends so it's a little bit more stable on my board. Okay. So we're going to cook our onion first, and then we're going to cook it so it's semi-translucent, which means it goes a little bit clear. So we don't want it to brown. The reason that we're doing this is that we are just taking some of the pungency out of the taste of the onion. Perfect. So we're just going to give this a quick stir. Again, we don't want to brown. So whenever you are making a soup or a stew, it always plays first in the onions, okay? So you want to make sure the onions they're going to be the part that is going to be the taste base of the soup. Okay.
All right. Potato?
Thank you.
You say potato, I say potato.
potato. There
How
we
many do you
go.
want? Do you want another one, or are you?
No, I think one is perfect.
One's good. Okay.
And actually, we've got a little bit of kosher salt there in that
Absolutely.
little white bowl if you want to give a generous sprinkle.
Little sprinkle. So I'm just going to do a little pinch.
Maybe even a little bit more.
2 pinch.
2 pinch. Perfect.
There you go. And do you want any in the?
Nope, we're just going to let our squash come to a boil here until it's fork tender, and then we're going to puree that as well.
Perfect.
So even if your garlic is kind of slippery, what you can do is you can actually even put down a little bit of salt.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to cut off that root bit.
Okay.
So it's nice and flat, so just press, and then the skin comes right off.
Perfect. What a quick tip.
So quick.
Quick tips with Laura.
There we
I love
go.
that.
And then we're just going to mince this. So it doesn't have to be perfect, just rough chop.
Nice.
Okay.
I'll just give this a little.
Thank you.
No problem, because I think they're getting semi-transparent. It reminds us we have this good soup project that we're doing with a bunch of rescued food, and all we're doing right now is making soups. Chicken noodle soup, squash soup.
Wow.
Yeah, so.
That must smell amazing.
Oh, it does. It really does. And it's amazing because you never go home hungry, right? Like,
Yeah, well, you have to try.
that's right. You have to. It's all the sampling, right?
So we don't have to use, this is a white potato. You can use a yellow flesh potato. If you want to add sweet potato, you can do that.
Ooh, orange on orange.
Orange on orange, also really great. Sweet potato is good for gut health
Okay.
and beta carotene,
Nice.
not just carrots.
And that is not a sorority, beta carotene, right?
That is not.
That is a mineral. That is. Yeah, that was one of my
Okay.
first cooking jokes. I didn't understand it. And then I grew up.
And then you grew
Yeah.
up. All right, so let's get this in here. So we've got our squash and our potato.
That's amazing. A little bit of leftover onion there, which is awesome.
Get
All the goodness
all
going in here.
there. A full carton of vegetable stock.
And that's, everyone says add in 4 cups or a liter, but when you look at this, a carton is really a liter full of stuff.
Yeah.
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 One of the things that a little tip that we've always done is when you're actually looking for 4 cups, I'll go to the sink and I'll rinse a little bit of water in it, swish it around, and get out any of the salt that may have settled at the bottom of the container.
That's brilliant.
So just that little bit of extra just rounds it out to that full liter. So
That is perfect. Now you
awesome.
can use a chicken broth if you'd like. We're going to make this soup vegan. So instead of adding a dairy at the end,
Yeah.
we're actually going to add coconut milk.
ooh, I love it. So Laura, it's amazing when I see all the scraps and the food scraps here. So at our place at Food for Life, we have a composter on site. So we'll take these, put them into the compost. We have a saying: soil is the new oil.
Right.
That's our kind of thing.
Yeah.
How do we return it to the earth? But you're using grapeseed oil here today.
I am.
So maybe you can tell us a little bit more as a chef. There's really 3 big ones. Coconut oil is a 4th. Maybe you could just give us a high-level view. Why and what should viewers know about oil? Because it's such an important part of how we cook.
It is. If you're looking for something a little bit more heart healthy, I would say grapeseed, olive oil, or coconut oil. If you're going to use an extra virgin olive oil for something like this in the oven, then it tends to be a little bit smoky and it's burnt.
Because it has a lower temperature point,
It
right?
does. It has
Okay.
a low smoking point
Right.
or a high smoking point.
Well, and we are a no smoking facility,
are
so
no
no
smoking
pun
here.
intended, right?
So I tend to use grapeseed or sunflower at home or
Okay.
coconut oil for things that I'm roasting in the oven.
Absolutely.
I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit here of kosher salt.
Another whole episode on salts.
That's it.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that when people watch this, they'll be peppering you with questions. So
That's it.
you might as well
Well,
just want to get ready with that.
Another really nice salt for finishing too is fleur de sel.
Oh, okay.
And that's it's a little bit more of a larger flaked salt. It tends to be a little bit more on the gray side,
Okay.
but it's great if you're making salted caramels or
Mm.
you're finishing off a dish,
Okay.
or even if you have unsalted butter, you can sprinkle some on top.
Great idea, right?
Yep,
Great
so
idea.
it's really
And
great for those people that are trying to limit their sodium intake as well. It's called an immersion blender. It's got 2 speeds up here, and basically it's a great tool for if you're just pureeing, so soups, applesauce, anything that you need to add smoothness to. And then this just comes right off for the dishwasher or the sink. If you don't have an immersion blender, another great tool is your food processor or your blender. If you are putting hot things in your blender, only fill up halfway and always cover the top of the lid with a cloth.
now,
Okay.
Laura, just a question for you. I know when I grew up, one of the things that we didn't have a lot of electrical tools. And,
Oh, you can use a potato masher? Is that what
yeah,
you're thinking?
and my grandmother actually gave me a little trick. She said, add a little bit of water in, mash it, and then drain the water back out because it's easier to mash it through. Does that still apply?
It totally still applies.
Awesome.
All right, so it's pretty smooth, and then the kids won't be able to tell that's even in their brownies.
Nice. So Laura, it has been busy. We've been cooking up a storm in here.
Busy, busy.
Mainly you and me making the bad food jokes. So what have we done here so far? I see a whole bunch of stuff, but maybe you can put it into recap because I'm kind of getting lost.
Yeah, no problem. So we just did our squash. We just did our squash 3 ways. So we cut up our butternut squash, some for the oven for our salad, and then we boiled some squash to puree for our brownies, and then we also have squash for our soup.
Wonderful.
So we've got the puree done, so we could start our brownies.
Okay.
Our soup is on a simmer, and our squash is roasting in the oven for our salad, so we can pull it all together.
Awesome. It sounds like it's like a magical vegetable, right? Like you can do so much with it.
It's very versatile.
Hello, I'm the kale.
Kale. We're going to eat you for salad.
Oh, eat me. I like to be eaten.
So
Talking vegetables. This is awesome.
It's good.
Oh, a salad spinner. Awesome.
So what we're going to do is you've got this spine here from your kale. This is very, very tough. So what you're going to do is you're just going to use your fingers and you're just going to separate the kale from the spine. Okay, and I'm just going to break it up into some little pieces and we're going to give it a wash.
And Laura, just a question for you. You know, one of the things that we started doing in our house once we peeled the kale is usually I'll use the kale stalks to season. You know, if I'm making a broth or something like that. Any other uses? Because I mean, they're edible. They're just a little bit chewy, right? Ooh, juice them.
That's a great idea.
That. I like that.
So we're just going to break these into small pieces. And then we're going to give it a wash. And then when our roasted butternut squash is out of the oven, then we can assemble our salad.
Lovely.
So in our squash soup, once that is fork tender, the squash, then we will take it off the heat and we'll puree. And that's also when you want to check again for taste, for seasoning. So that's when you add more salt and pepper. If you wanted to add a little bit of a kick to it, you could add some cumin and some curry powder. I prefer just to add a little bit of cinnamon. Oh,
we happen to have some of that here.
Yes.
Our friend Mr. Sin and Mrs. Mon.
That's right. I'm a purist by heart, so I tend to not add anything to my soup except for the few basic things here. There's been a little bit in the past where I've actually, I just put in like just a little tiny bit.
Now, have you ever done, I know you can buy cinnamon in the whole sticks.
Yeah.
Right? And a lot of people actually don't know what to do with them, but they can be a very affordable way to incorporate cinnamon into your cooking.
Absolutely.
Have you ever incorporated cinnamon in that way into this recipe?
Yeah, you can actually just throw a cinnamon stick right into your soup while it's simmering. Ooh, and then you take it out.
That looks like it's almost knife tender.
Almost there, not quite.
Yep.
So we'll put the lid on there and we'll wait. Another thing that you can put in is pear.
Ooh.
Adding a little bit more dietary fiber.
And do you peel the pear or take the skin off?
Yep, you would peel the pear and dice the pear and put it right in.
Okay, clever. I've never seen that done.
Or you can add apple.
Yes, apple I've seen, but pear, that's
sometimes people put in a touch of brown sugar. Okay. Just to bring out the sweetness.
So you make sure that squash and the pear make a good couple?
They do.
They're a good pair?
They do.
Right. Okay, all right. I know, cooking it's a punny job. So we got our green cutting board, we got our soup, we got our puree, we got our stuff cooking in the oven.
Yep, so why don't we work on our onion and our pepper for our salad?
Ooh, okay, well we got those.
Okay. And
so we do have red onions.
Red onions, perfect.
These red onions, I can guarantee you, are here from Canada, not from the US.
Thank you.
And that's another part, if you're cooking in the kitchen, I always encourage people to go on to the CFIA website. They can also go on our website. We have all the food recalls listed there.
Perfect.
Because sometimes you don't know where your food's coming from, especially onions, because they tend to come into an aggregator and then they're sorted out in bulk. So if you're buying them loose, you may not know where they come from. But for this purpose, I know that these are safe.
Perfect. Whatever apple you like here. That's right. Okay, want to make a dressing for the salad?
Sure.
And then we'll have that on standby. Okay, so we're just gonna eyeball. So we're gonna do a little bit of...
Now wait, we're getting close to Halloween. You're not putting eyeballs in there.
We're not putting eyeballs.
Okay, just want to make sure.
So we're gonna add, maybe it's usually a 1-to-2 ratio. Okay, so of vinegar to oil.
Okay, so 1 glug, 2, okay, good.
Yeah, or 2 tablespoons, 1 tablespoon. And then I'm going to add a little bit of mustard.
or a lot, depending on what you like.
I guess it depends on if
Yeah.
you like mustard.
I've made this very similar recipe, but with Keen's hot mustard
Oh, yeah. Oh,
for that extra little
fiery.
bit. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was good.
And then we're add a little bit of maple syrup.
Lovely.
Okay.
Canada's nectar.
It is. Well, my dad actually lives, I'm going to add a bit more. My dad lives up north on a farm that's been in our family since the 1850s.
Wow.
I'm going to add a bit of salt here.
So you must have some really good stories about how they've used maple syrup over the years then.
You know what? It was great. It was great growing up.
Yeah.
We always had fresh maple syrup growing up. And my grandpa used to put it out on the snow for us. Yeah. They're lucky.
Yes.
Lucky kids. And yeah, so all right. I'm just not going to put all the dressing on because no one wants to drown their food.
By the way, I had to get the sports analogy in.
Oh yes, tell me what
Because
was that?
Parks and Rec, right? Like this is the
yeah, that's
right. We got to get that in for the town of Oakville because it has a pretty good Parks and Rec program, and they're trying their best right now to keep everyone active and
very
engaged,
true.
and it's a challenge. Now, I'm not just saying that because we have two of them standing here
That's
behind
right.
us as our producers, but you got to say if they're providing for the food, then you got to take care of them, right?
That's right.
Yeah, we'll feed them too, right?
My kids are very active in the town of Oakville programs.
Well, we actually did a food program with the town of Oakville and sports.
Oh.
So yeah, we actually had this great, one of these guys named Daniel and Nabil, right? You probably met them. So they came up to us with this crazy idea of saying, you know what, how do we get kids that may be marginalized, living with a little bit less, how do we get them engaged in active sports?
Yes, I remember this.
Yeah, it's called Nourishing Minds. It was brilliant.
Yes.
So Donna Slater, who runs our impact program, connected with them, and we figured out that they could open this door, and they could have people come in, and then at the end of it, they would come through, and we'd give them a bag of food with a recipe. And we actually heard back from the families that it was the first time they cooked together. Like they were getting, you talked about new foods, right? That we get, so cauliflower, etc. They were actually enjoying it. So that program has started to grow and grow and grow, and it's been amazing, and it transcends now Oakville, and we're trying to get it in other communities as well. So it's kind of cool,
That
right?
is very cool. So with the salad, so we're putting in our kale, we've got our dressing, we've got our peppers, our onions. We're gonna add in some nice big handfuls of apples. You've got a little bit of protein here with cheese, but not enough to fully satisfy.
But like you said, you could sprinkle on some nuts, and
Absolutely.
really any type of nut.
Okay, so let's
All right.
check on our soup and plug in the immersion blender.
So Laura, just so the viewers know, we've plated out the salad, that's
Yes.
all good, and we have our puree over here for the brownies, which we're gonna get to, and you said 1 bowl brownies we're gonna go to next.
One bowl.
Amazing, so we're gonna get there in a second, but first we got this. Now I'm gonna lift this off so we can get
Okay.
those smells,
Okay,
right?
ready?
But not too close, because
No,
otherwise
yeah,
we'll
this-
get
yeah.
burned from the steam, right? So a safety piece, there we go. Oh,
Can you smell the cinnamon?
oh, I can. Yes. Oh, yes, I can. So I'm going to turn this over so you can work your magic on this.
Okay.
What are we doing first here?
So usually I would just have my immersion blender over at the stove here, but I don't think it quite
Well,
reaches. So
how about I bring this
that would be
over
great.
to you?
That
Because
would be
I got these wonderful sponsored Town of Oakville ghost gloves.
and they look good on you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
They just call me Casper.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, so when we've got our immersion blender, you don't want to have it halfway out because then it's going to shoot everywhere, okay? So the potato not only adds some elements of fiber and minerals,
Yeah.
it actually also adds as a thickening agent for your soup.
Perfect. And it's one of those vegetables that you can actually live on potatoes and water for a long time, right? A lot of people don't know that. I don't recommend it
Yes.
because there's so many other good things that are out there, and good healthy food is always available.
Absolutely.
People just need to reach out, and they'll be able to get it.
Sometimes it's just hard when you're always cooking the same thing to branch out and to try something different, right?
Yeah, especially when you don't have the time, or if you're on a fixed income.
Yep, absolutely.
And it's one of the things that I really enjoy about working at Food for Life is that we get such a variety of fresh, healthy food that when we share it out, people are often like, "Ooh, what is this?" It's something that they wouldn't normally buy.
See, I love that.
So we actually include a lot of recipes in that. So
That's a great idea.
that's how you learn, right? And so as we evolve, we try to include more things in there so people can make those complete meals together as a family.
That's good.
Yeah.
I'm just going to quickly show you this. So we've got some full-fat coconut milk. Okay, so what happens with coconut milk is that it tends to, the solids rise up to the top and the water comes down to the bottom. So all I'm doing here is I'm just giving this a little bit of a mix. And we're not going to add all the coconut milk. We don't want it to be overpowering in our soup. So I'll probably add maybe about half the can. So I'm just going to spoon a little bit in here so it doesn't splatter up. So I'm just going to try a taste. So just going to see if we need to add any more seasoning here. And I think we need to add a little bit more salt.
That's always the hard part, right? Trying to get it. With our Good Soup project, we tested it with a number of different people to try to find the right balance. And even with that, it's hard to actually.
Difficult.
It is, yeah, because everyone's palate is so different. And I heard as we age as well, our palate changes dramatically.
It does.
Yeah.
I think that you miss a lot of flavors.
Yeah, it's funny. My
Sorry,
mom and dad will cook now, and everything gets saltier, almost too salty to eat, right? Because their palate is changing.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And also, the older you get too, the more lactose intolerant you become.
Really? Interesting.
Okay. So there we go.
Maybe that's why I sold my cow.
There you go.
For a bunch of beans.
Beans.
It's good. Okay.
Okay, soup is done.
Awesome.
Now,
Soup's
soup
on.
is always better the second day.
That's because it's had time for the flavors to mellow.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yep. You got it.
you got it. That's awesome.
Okay.
Okay, so let me move that out of the way for you.
Thank you.
You got important things to make now.
Now we're moving on to, all right, so we're going to start with an all-purpose flour. So we're going to use all-purpose instead of cake and pastry,
Okay.
just because the protein content, we want it to create a little bit more gluten.
Nice. Okay.
So it sticks together.
I
Okay?
learned something, a lot of things new today, but I never knew that about the difference between all-purpose and cake and pastry.
So I am just going to aerate my flour a little bit because right now it's very compressed in here.
Okay.
So we're not going to get a true measure.
So you're gonna make it light and fluffy.
Yep.
Awesome.
Okay, so we're going to use 2/3 a cup of flour. So I'm just going to do the dip and sweep.
Okay.
I'm
Perfect.
just going to level it off here. Okay.
And so you're not packing it down, and I think that's a misconception with flour that you pack it down, right?
Yeah, there's no packing
Right.
because then you're actually not going to get an accurate amount.
Okay.
When I do baking at home, I actually use grams instead of
Perfect.
cups.
Thank you. And just for the viewers, we have sanitized. We're all good.
Yes, we are all good.
All COVID friendly here.
So
Well,
then
we're all
we've got
friendly and
that.
no COVID, so it's all good.
And then we are going to use 1 cup of white sugar, granulated sugar.
And any tips? I know with brown sugar, you can put a little slice of apple into your brown sugar to keep it from
Yeah, or a
drying
piece
out.
of bread.
Bread. Okay, I've never heard of bread before.
Yeah, if you've got the heel of the bread that no one likes to
Yeah.
eat and they leave it in the cupboard, that's
All right.
perfect for your brown sugar.
Okay, love it.
And our squash. So notice here that we're not adding any butter or any kind of
Yeah, I
fat.
noticed that. Yeah.
So we are using our squash.
Okay.
How do you feel about cracking eggs? Are you?
Oh, I'm great at cracking eggs.
I knew it.
Love it.
All right. So I'll give you 2.
Awesome.
Can you do 2 at a time?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm not that gifted. I'm confused, but not that gifted. So you want me to crack them into here?
So I was going to say the reason that we actually crack them individually into a dish, if you do have one egg that is off, then you're not throwing out all the eggs that you've cracked.
Okay.
Okay.
And this is nice. This kitchen has a nice counter on it.
Yep.
And I'm gonna get a runner.
Oh, it's
Nope,
all-
we're all good.
Oh, look at that.
Oh,
So good. This is good. good.
This is great. It's the one little piece of shell.
But you know how we can get this out?
Well, I don't know. Normally at home, I just
You
like
dig in
this.
with your fingers?
But how would a chef do
So
it?
actually, you can use your eggshell,
Eggshell. So I'll take this one because it's a little bit less cracky.
and then it will actually gravitate towards the piece.
Ooh! Who knew this was a magic show? I love this.
I
This
know.
is awesome. Okay, so I'm going to put these, I'll just set these
Perfect.
here for now. Is
Yeah,
that
sure,
okay?
that's fine.
All right, I'm just
And
going
then
to wash my hands.
Yes, absolutely. Like this. If you are measuring something wet, like milk or cream or buttermilk, that kind of thing,
Yep.
then you always would use a wet measure, and that's the measuring cup.
The glass cups, the Pyrex cups
Yes.
typically. Right?
Absolutely.
Yep.
So today, because this is a solid, we're actually going to measure in a measuring cup and not a liquid cup.
Okay.
Okay, because it's two very different measures.
Yeah. Yeah, and one thing I did learn about those measuring cups is make sure that if you are shopping at a lower value store, you know, a buck or two or one of those, that make sure you always check that the measuring cups are tempered.
Yes. Eggs. Yes. A very good point.
Yeah, I've seen far too many of those crack.
Just added in 1 cup of chocolate chips.
Because everything's better with chocolate.
There we
Right.
go. And if
Life is like a box of chocolates.
that's it. If
Yeah.
you really, really wanted to dress this up, you could make a chocolate icing for the top, or you could drizzle it with caramel.
Or if we roasted some of those squash seeds,
Oh, you could put them on top.
there we
Yeah,
go.
There you go.
Hey, let's bring this full circle. Putting soup on top of brownies is not a good idea.
Not
Looking
the
right
soup.
in the camera, no soup on brownies.
No soup on the brownies.
Yeah. Seeds, yes. Soup, no.
But that's a brilliant idea.
Well, thank you. I have one about every 10 years, so I'll mark it on the calendar.
There you go.
Thank you.
Well, I think you've had a couple today, so
We'll see. They're
You're a-
debatable. We'll let the viewers decide.
you're ahead of the game.
We'll let them write in and let us know if they were brilliant ideas or just silly dad talk.
So into the oven for about 20 to 25 minutes at 350.
So Laura, this has been a riot. I have had an absolute blast cooking in the kitchen with
I'm so
Laura.
glad you could come today.
No, it was a pleasure. I mean, I didn't expect to be in the kitchen, but it was obviously my extreme good looks that kept me
I
here.
think, yeah.
Yeah, and people can laugh at that one later. But we have 3 amazing meals that we've made, all with rescued food, and we've made this using squash and onions and peppers and it's wonderfully balanced and healthy. So maybe we could walk through again the 3 main dishes. Of course, my favorite being the brownies.
Okay.
But the 3 main dishes that you made today.
Okay, so we've got a quick butternut squash soup, can be made in about 20 minutes or so. And that one was just with the onions, the garlic, the squash,
Yeah.
broth, and seasonings and coconut milk.
Perfect.
And then to add on to that, we have a nice kale salad, also supplied by Food for Life, with some red pepper, feta cheese, apple. There's lots of ways that you could make this as well if you didn't have those certain ingredients. You can use spinach or regular lettuce if you'd like.
Right.
Add a protein, make it a full meal. And then we also used some of our butternut squash in the salad roasted. And then we made a puree of squash and we put it into our brownies.
Which, of course, is the biggest food group, right?
That's right.
Yeah, most important one.
The
Right?
most
we talked
important.
about that, yeah? Chocolate.
Yep. And
Yeah.
then so we actually used the squash instead of a butter or a fat. So
Perfect.
We're
Which I
adding
was
some-
amazed at, because I normally, with brownies, you'd have your butter, you'd have that other stuff in it. But,
Yep.
you know, this is an amazing way to do it. I'm going to do
Yep.
that with my kids later, because I have a couple of squash sitting on my counter.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
And they might not even know.
No, well, yeah, I'll just tell them anyways, and they'll
Yeah.
eat it because it has chocolate in it,
That's
right?
right.
It's chocolate.
That's right. I know it's not a usual combo.
That's right. So Laura, you and I are both, you know, we're environmentally conscious. We're respectful of the community. You know, we've had this opportunity to do this today, and you know, we were talking earlier. I mentioned that, you know, this could go into someone's compost bin. It's all the trimmings, etc. But then you mentioned this awesome thing. What else could I do with this? What else could our people watching do with this?
So what we could do here is what I tend to do a lot at home is I'll save my onion skins and I'll save the tops of my celery or my carrot shavings.
Okay.
And sometimes if I don't get to it right away, then I'll put it in a freezer bag.
Yeah.
and then I'll pull it out of the freezer and I roast it all in the oven.
Okay.
And then that is the base for a stock.
So
a
just like
vegetable stock.
a little bit of olive oil, a little bit of salt,
Yep.
roast it, and then make homemade stock.
Yeah.
Which coming into the holiday season, when you have turkey and you have all this other stuff that you want to
Or
extend the harvest
for
on.
flu season.
Flu season, right? Well, we won't talk about that
Yes.
because everyone's going to go out and get their flu shot.
That's right,
We
right.
strongly encourage you get your flu shot,
Yep.
and obviously sanitize, stay safe, wear your masks, which
Mm-hmm.
we've been doing, and social distancing. So I think this has been wonderful, and hopefully this takes off and we can do this more regularly
would
and
love
talk
that.
about rescued food and what's happening, because it's amazing when you look at this, what people can do with what we started with.
Yes,
And-
absolutely, and very quickly too.
That's right. And when you think about this from a health standpoint, a nutrition standpoint, and helping people break that cycle of poverty, or even just extend their dollars a little bit more when they reach out to us at Food for Life, these are some amazing pieces that they can take home and make with the stuff that we put into our fresh food bags every day that go out to hundreds of homes across Oakville and thousands across Halton. This is the type of stuff that they can make right there with these good ingredients. So
Such
that's
a great
awesome.
job you guys are doing.
well, thank you, and vice
Yeah,
versa.
thank
You know,
you.
this is fun. So
It
let's
is
do this
fun.
again.
I love that.
Okay.
Okay.
So from us to you, thank you for being with us today. And remember, good food, it's in you to give.